Ladies and Germans, how you all doing? This is Kholodny coming to you with some more Company of Heroes 2 action. Today, it is a 1v1 between Harald, or Harald perhaps, over here on the western side of Kholodny Ferma Winter, playing as the OKW. He's got Scavenge, ahead of myself here. So Scavenge Doctrine, Luftwaffe Ground Forces, and Special Operations Doctrine. So whatever we see, we might be more than likely seeing some awesome grenades coming on through. His opponent, playing as the valiant United States, it's going to be that gentleman we all know and love. It's Luciano. He is bringing on in, of course, Armor Company, as well as tactical support, as well as heavy cav. So three very standard calls for three very standard playstyles for the Americans. The OKW very quickly moving out, not looking to take any kind of territory, it seems like. Instead, looking to frustrate the Americans as they kind of move about from position to position. Two riflemen already out on the field, and it's going to be no Kubelwagens opening. It's going to be instead zwei Volksgrenade DS squads. And Harald is going to probably put himself behind the 8-ball pretty darn quickly here. As the rear echelon's coming down to the south, I'm surprised we're not seeing any sort of actual territory. Okay, finally, we're seeing territory go over to the Germans. Now, taking a quick look at bulletins, nothing really too surprising here. Just riflemen like crazy, and buffing them up like nuts. And Volksgrenadiers as well. So, actually, might even be almost a mirror. It's almost a mirror. Recruit and officer, and recruit and officer. So actually it is a mirror, more or less. Just not in terms of portraits. Other than that, though, so a trip Volksgrenadier squad opening, which is probably a good idea on this particular map for the OKW. Because, heck, first of all, the riflemen are way too good for the Volksgrenadiers to take them on by themselves, really. And frankly, having numbers to continue taking territory as much as possible is what you really want to have as the OKW early, especially since these riflemen are just way too effective in that mid to short range combat. What's more, I mean, the OKW has to be aggressive early on, has to be pushing the limits of every single area possible because of that incredible amount of resource investment. So one squad getting pinched out already. And not really a whole lot happening. Just a little bit of health being traded on out. Volksgrenadiers, in the meantime, do chase away the riflemen from the center part of the map. And fuel being picked up by the Americans before the Germans do get theirs. It's going to be another 15-20 seconds before that happens. And this kind of frustration decap, it's just that. It's just frustration. There's nothing that really goes off from it. A very quick mortar coming on out for Luciano. So I don't know if we're going to perhaps see a meta play from him on this. Might see that kind of captain and then from there. But Harald is definitely going for that battlefield headquarters. So looking for some very good medic play, which I think is probably the best call under the circumstances. Luciano is not an individual you want to go up against with anything less than fully healed and talented units. Volksgrenadiers trading fire with these riflemen, but the Sturm Pioneers coming in from the side will do a good number here instead. So up close and personal, yeah, those riflemen realize they are outgunned completely, dropping 40% of their number onto the snow, though. And where's that mortar facing? He's facing towards the north, and that's 81mm stovepipe, dropping rounds right there. He's moving fairly accurate as well. So forcing it back up pretty darn quick. Riflemen, in the meantime, are going to go and take a frustration decap. Then in the south, rear echelons are facing off against these Volksgrenadiers, and embarrassingly enough, the Volksgrenadiers are getting carved to pieces by them, but they are doing a pretty good number against in return. You see 75% of the squad is dead, while the Germans can kind of now take this munitions point for their own business. That Swift Battle Group headquarters coming on out practically next door, so hoping that the Americans decide not to go for that Calliope. Could be a rather devastating position for them, and obviously in the later game. But to see, or even the 240 howitzer, ooh, that'd be disgusting as well. I mean, most players don't tend to go after headquarters segments, but the OKW is just fragile enough that you should be able to take out those half-tracks pretty darn quickly. Schumann going on out over here to the northwest, trying to frustrate any decap that comes on through. Americans, in the meantime, trade a little bit of health, not that much. And an MG-34 coming on out for the Germans. I thought they were going to get to that garrison for a second. MG-34, though, that thing is just a suppression machine, so it's really not going to be that much of an effective fire point. Maybe sticking in this garrison here to retard any progress from the Americans. And there's Luciano's captain, so I'm thinking we are going to, in fact, see that fairly quick Stuart. Now, that Stuart's not going to happen monstrously quickly, but still fast enough that's worth noting. At 486 to 492, the Americans are going to drop a few more tickets here and there, at least until they can pressure through the south and the center part of this map. Really should be doing that right now, but that's not going to happen too quickly. 57mm being called on in the meantime. I'm not sure if that's just a stopgap measure or what, but MG34 will definitely push back this captain. Suppression super quickly, and these... Wow, I didn't even see that get abused like crazy. But these Volksgrenadiers, despite having a kind of numerical advantage in most of these engagements, just butchered, man. They're down to just barely any kind of health, and most of them are necessitating quite a reinforcement run here.
Tank gun, ready for action.
Schumann is up and available, and smoke rounds going on out. Luftwaffe ground forces being the call, so no assault infiltration grenades there. Instead, we might see some very opportunistic Fallschirmjägers. And while I understand, and for me, honestly, I understand the reasoning that most people go for Luftwaffe ground forces. You have some good recon if you really need to. There's some solid troops here. And this isn't terribly bad, but it costs you so many munitions. But from my point, I would think that you would want to go for special ops, maybe for my favorite unit in the game. Or, well, you would have a little bit more of a late game presence because Luftwaffe ground forces just falls off so intensely much. But that does not seem to be the concern for Harald. This is stupidly interesting as well, though. It's a very bizarre to see. We are going to see it's a fighting position up here to the northern side, and with the 50 cal on out as well, it will completely devastate anybody who kind of tries to approach. And with that, well, more and more of these rifle grenades going on out. Going to do a great job against... Yep, it's going to come... Okay, you're going to do a great job against these folks grenadiers. And I have it kind of hanging out here for a couple more seconds because one or two more rifle grenades, as well as this machine gun as it comes online.
Enemies are swarming one of our emplacements.
It's going to be very hard to be a German moving to the northern side of this map. STG's out on one of these Volksgrenadier squads. MG34 in the meantime trying to get into this house. No, not going to happen. And there are some STGs already dropped into the ground. Not that the Americans can pick those up. Stuart coming up just behind. He's on the battlefield now. And Harald is definitely reeling already. 8 minutes in and he's down 60-some, oh, 50-some, 55-ish tickets. And I don't know what he's going to be doing to get back into this. He's got himself a Fallschirmjäger squad being called on in. But that's really not going to do the most damage possible. They're trying to get around to the northern side. Fighting position is going to be too much. It's not going to do anything really to the fighting position, but he might be able to carve a good number into his rear echelons, and that's exactly what he's going to do. Bundle grenade? No. No, he's just going to engage from the flank here. And indeed, though, the Stuart's going to show him the error in his ways as well. So between that, as well as the 50 cal, yeah, it ain't going to be pretty. Well, Kettenwerfer is out on the field, and that will allow the Germans a small bit of breathing room to deflect that Stuart, at least for the moment. But he's facing the wrong direction. Oh, no. No. Not going to get his shot off. Anyway, it's going to circle straight to death, my friends. Luciano is one of those guys you do not want to go and try to just micro to death. He's going to do a very good job. But a very good... Faust coming on out, and never mind, out of control. So as soon as I make that comment, there it goes. And 9 minutes in, despite the fact that his infantry is badly being abused, he's taken away the fuel from the Americans. And this is actually not the best call. He's coming to the front, apparently. And somehow, some way, he's actually not being seen. Rifleman, in the meantime, coming around, trying to go and flank a lot of the German army, but with being outnumbered so much, I don't know that's really the best call. And we see that very rapidly not becoming a good call. He does drop a model or two, but nevertheless, not the greatest engagement. Kettenwerfer going to try to engage the fighting position, or no? No, not quite. This mortar team, in the meantime, as well, is going to get kind of a good amount of damage being done to it. The Germans say they are burning, their hearts are burning over there for the Americans and to force them on back. The Americans are not able to handle the depth of affection coming out from the OKW here. It's going to come the Wehrmacht for a second. And the captain as well, coming under intense pressure. So while Harald's troops are all sorely, sorely abused, indeed he's probably going to drop a squad here. No? Shockingly enough, he doesn't. He is pushing back the Americans. He's hanging out just long enough in these engagements. A very well-placed shoe mine on this tank trap. So next time someone comes up to use it, kaboom, they're going to take a very, very nasty surprise. Now, Fallschirmjägers are completely reinforced. You heard that just now in the background. I do want to see the Sturm Pioneers come down to the south to prevent this cap from going on off. But I don't think that's going to be the case. And indeed, Sturm Pioneers just playing very cautiously instead. Ambo's been called in for quite a bit of time by Luciano's forces, and then Luciano going for the armor company as well. So the late game... What term am I looking for? The late game Pershing is a very, very real opportunity. And this Rakettenwerfer needs really one more shot, and there goes that fighting position. So retarded the progress quite a bit of the Americans there, so well done. I actually did not expect that Rakettenwerfer to do what it needed to do. But the Americans doing rather well even using that fighting position. That's just an uncommon decision. Usually most people see that as a throwaway. Because fighting positions, obviously being immobile, are just not always the best usage of munitions. You wonder why the heck you're going to go and waste, 75 munis on a stable, mind you, but still just stuck in one spot. It's a completely immobile position here. MG gonna put fire out on this mortar here. Might even cause a pin. No, not quite yet. But these, oof. Okay, never mind. Here comes a smoke barrage, so that's gonna disrupt quote sight lines. But no damage really being done. And now with these Volksgrenadiers in close proximity, no one can really do any kind of real good engagements. And while that mortar is still out on the map, this captain's not going to want to be there. And indeed, he's going to fall back in the face of such danger. 57mm is going to get forced back as well, and a lot of the American stuff is all back in base. In fact, just about all of it. Captain going there now. And with that, the Germans have been able to call in the Schwerpanzer headquarters to continue to hold their fuel point to the north. A very defensive one, but honestly rather well placed, and they have themselves a triple cap in just a few seconds here. About 6 or 7 seconds yet, and they'll have that trip cap. Hell, even with that, they're going to go and pick up this fuel point down to the south. So the Americans losing on every single front, and it's very, very rare to see Luciano get walloped this badly. Of course, now that I'm thinking about it, a lot of this might have to do with the fact that Stuart went down. Incendiary grenade coming on through, and the rear echelons need to back away, or else they're going to take a lot of sunburn. Major coming on through, and with that, trip cap's going to get taken away, but Volksgrenadiers are in the area just to take it right back in a second or two, should he desire that. Fallschirmjägers holding the southern side as the MT-34 and Volks come in from the north, and BARs are not even going to turn this back around, so we have 2 squads of riflemen with BARs on the field. And indeed, trying to hold this position over here, this stationary kind of strategic point. But the second that the smoke runs out, yep, Sturm Pioneers are going to trade really, really well. And Harald is just doing a great job here. Wow, I'm surprised. I really didn't think that Harald was going to have a snowball's chance in hell. Then I realized that, hey, we're on Kholodny Ferma. It's winter here 24/7. Volksgrenadiers coming on forwards a little bit, going to put a little pressure out on the 81 mil. And just still force him back to base, I'm guessing. Just nothing too splendiferous, but just taking that position here, kind of keeping him at bay is a good call. And then again, the captain's falling back, and Volksgrenadiers are taking back the position yet again. And jeez Louise, I did not expect this at all. Majors in the area, realizing the Americans saying that they can't sacrifice any fighting power at all. So that little 1911 Colt he's got going on, well, every bit of firepower helps apparently today. And a bit of an explosion going on out. What was that? Was that a shoe mine? It might have been a shoe mine. With the couple of kills that have gone out definitely seems a possibility. Another stream line being revealed, so that's pretty scary. But this Fallschirmjäger squad got to back up. Smoke bomb going on out, but you know, nothing too satisfying there. Jeez. Now, where is that MG34? He's back in base, isn't he? No, he's down to the south. Okay. So, Volksgrenadier squad? No, Fallschirmjägers went down. So, brave Fallschirmjäger went down. But despite that, I would still give this early game over here to the Germans. And indeed, the fact that the Americans don't have any fuel to their name.
Combat unit ready.
Well, now that they're Obersoldaten out in the field as well. So, the LMG, a quick LMG, will allow him some excellent firepower. The BARs are still in the area, and he has to know that these mines have been completely found, so that's a bit of a problem to his defensive posture, but all things considered, that mortar's got to get a couple of rounds out before it really devastates him. I say that, though, and that's when the mine goes off, so prescience, it seems, is a talent of Harald's. He realizes he's going to get blown to pieces and backs away just before it happens. Captain, in the meantime, forcing away Volksgrenadiers, but despite the fact that the Americans are able to make a slight push here, the Germans should be able to pick up an armored fighting vehicle fairly soon. MG34, no, not, I was about to say he's going to redeploy to the south, but no, rear echelons are going to try to back him on up. And this smoke rounds are going to do some good distraction. Not going to get that burst of fire off that he needs, and indeed this MG34 has to retreat now. But geez, so does this mortar as 3 squads of Germans come in behind the American position. And while they might lose this one down here for a second or two, oh dear God, it's going to be ugly for this rifle squad. They retreat back through here. One model dropping already, another one going to drop out pretty darn quickly here. 2 down. Recon's sweep coming on through, and these rear echelons are going to get pinched out in just a second, so LMG fire going to force them away before they can take the necessary territory. P4 coming in as well for the OKW, and that is the awesome P4. I mean, awesome. Maybe it might be a what you call it? Might be overly kind of optimistic about it, but it's still better than that short-barreled garbage you see for the command tanks. So can't be putting too much hate on it.
Panzer IV, ready for action.
Yeah, no, never mind. This is the Panzer J, which means that it's just going to be a very upgun variant with the armor skirts on the side. You can see already, rather lovely, sexy beast right there. Rakettenwerfer was apparently out way too far scouting for everybody else, and really was in the wrong position. Pack Howitzer, in the meantime, being called on by Luciano, so he's reaching for every bit of his bag of tricks that he can. Volksgrenadiers should be sliding in around this captain, but he's not doing it. Instead, he's preferring to kind of give his opponent a little bit of chance. And at 401 to 318, P4 coming on out and pressuring back this mortar, pressuring back this major, and this 57mm is not going to be able to pressure back by himself. What's more, there is nowhere near enough fuel to be really terrifying. He just knows somehow the 57mm is in the area, so he backs away so that way he can stay just out of that firing arc. You know, down in the south, the Germans just continue to mop the floors with every bit of American troop that comes down there. Over here to the northern side, rear echelons are trying to sneak back out, and while they're putting together fragments of a good attack, the displacement of Harald as he attacks has just been fantastic. Incendiary grenade coming on out. This Obersoldaten are going to put pressure into this 57mm to push them back, and that will allow the P4 to sweep forwards, and that's combined armed tactics at its finest. But no, instead, actually the P4 is going to come down to the south and put pressure onto this major as well as this mortar team. Germans in the meantime do decrew this 57mm and could go and just scrap it, and that would be a nope. They're going to take it for themselves. Interesting decision.
Our supply line is cut. Germans are making a push.
And they're going to drop it again. So 3 models are going to go down. Brave amateurs.
A capture point.
There we go. Bring it right back to the front of the map form, really. P4, I kind of feel like should just be putting rounds into it, but it's not going to do so. Another 57 millimeter being called on in. The P4 will not be denied, and now we have Volksgrenadiers coming on out as well. Animation canceled before the incendiary grenade gets wasted. Probably a good call there, but just, I guess if you're bleeding your opponent 3 models at a time and you're up right now, then why the heck not?
Allied AT gun has been destroyed.
75 mil Pack Howie does go and throw down HE rounds onto the P4, but High X, not the same thing as armor piercing, thank God. And this house over here starts to get a little bit burnt out. And Luciano is just down to a bare couple of sectors. Just this one right here is the only kind of resources he's getting. And the Germans just continue to mop the floors with them. I'm shocked. And at long last, he decides the 57mm is not worth saving. And blows it apart. He's going to take a couple of rounds in the meantime, though, and we'll probably activate these Volksgrenadiers to move in against it. But no, he just kind of blithely takes the rounds, backs away. And where are those Sturm Pioneers? They're back in base, so nowhere near the kind of reinforcement, kind of repairing that he needs to have happen.
We've dropped to 200 points.
But Luciano, shockingly enough, is down to half the number of tickets of his opponent already. And good lord, so MG34 just has a beautiful, beautiful firing arc. Probably one of the best in the game. And now with that Sherman on out, is that going to be enough? I don't think that will be. And now we actually have a 75 mil or 7.5 centimeter IG-18 Infanterie Kanone 18 putting rounds on out, but it's looking a little bit farther to the rear. Or not. Anyway, we got Redford deploying down to the southern side, and we're going to see at least one Faust coming on through. So that's a Faust, and while these guys keep getting run on over, that Rakettenwerfer is still very deadly. Intelligently enough, Luciano decides to back away before, the rubber meets the road. Volksgrenadiers should probably back up right about now. Yep, there they go. Taking a quick look at veterancy, Americans are very vetted up. Shocking, despite the fact that he's being carved to pieces, Luciano's men are very, very talented fighters. Unfortunately, they just can't seem to hang around long enough in the battlefield to do anything with that veterancy. MG comes on through, though, and gets blown to pieces. Rakettenwerfer getting forced on back by BARs and rifle fire. Regardless, despite the fact that they're holding the line over here on the northern side, taking the VP as well as pushing back the German forces, there's a second P4 coming on out. And with that second P4, you really have to wonder if Luciano has anything left in his quiver. Or if he's just quivering in fear right now. Hey, hey. Word puns. 57 mil is kind of down to the south, and I'm trying to think, what can Luciano do to get back in this?
Commanders, be advised. Ability now ready.
Well, first things first, continue to pressure out these support weapon teams. And 57mm is going to push back on this P4 yet again. So well done there. Down to the south, we will see another squad is actually losing ground against... Why did he... Oh, he can't... I don't know why he did that. So he called in the P4. Then he canceled the P4, and now he's calling it in again. So that's a shame. He was almost getting that last P4. That looks like a couple more seconds he would have had it. Fully vetted up riflemen against fully vetted up Volksgrenadiers with STGs against the BAR. With the artillery fire, the Germans should be able to win that handily, and you see the riflemen falling back in the face of it. Down to the south, Germans might lose a couple of tickets here. Not for long, but might lose a couple of tickets as the Obersoldaten shift on into the front, and going to do some really good fire here. P4 is well placed, though, against this M3, and the M3, despite breaking through the forests, decides that discretion is a better part of valor. And the Obers and the Volksgrenadiers should be back down to the south, retaking. The two squads move back together. Meanwhile, up to the northern side, we are going to see this other squad, Volksgrenadier squad, not the fully vetted up one. In fact, only 3 stars, just a shockingly few. Taking the northern position. 393 to 152. It's been a kind of a blowout over here. Not been a complete one, obviously, but the Americans are not doing as well as you kind of expected them to do with that meta play. I think a lot of it really has to do with that aggressive Rakettenwerfer that was able to take out a linchpin in the American attack. What's more, you see a lot of the Americans right on the center part of this axis of attack here, coming up this main road. And while they chase back individual squads here and there, the Germans don't need to be aggressive. They can sit back and relax and just kind of throw rounds from downrange, way downtown, in fact. What's more, I'm a little bit surprised that he's actually not going for a mechanized regiment. But in terms of things that really kind of surprise me and make me kind of nervous for the German position, it isn't this. 57mm is doing some good rounds, though, throwing them into the side of these panzers, which will encourage them to back away, at least for the time being. But still a trip cap, 393 to 123, and these Volksgrenadiers are going to back away as well, and they'll probably lose a model or two to the BAR fire and all this extra nonsense getting levied their direction. Meanwhile, the north of Kattenwerfer, MG-34, just hanging on out. Oh boy. Oh boy. And at long last, we do see the last SWS being called on in for Harald, which says to me, maybe get dropped down right about here, put the mechanics on out. To me, that'd be a good call.
We've dropped to 100 points.
But again, you know, as of right now, I can't find a lot of issues in terms of his play. I thought, again, the 8-9 minute mark, I was really nervous for him, but now my nerves have just completely and totally just been completely unfounded. Set it up, though. You can do it. I have faith in you. Still a 2-to-1. We have infantry screening for the tanks, and this mortar team is not going to come up and do very well against this, obviously. Pack howitzer putting out round, trying to blow apart this infantry advance. The captain is over here in the front lines as well. This really is a beautiful indication of how tactics would have looked back during the war itself. Infantry might screen the advance for the tanks when they know there was anti-tank vehicles about, anti-tank avenues, excuse me. If there are machine guns, the tanks would go forward first to kind of clear away a lot of that issue. The American Shermans would find themselves getting outflanked constantly. I mean, this is a beautiful, beautiful expression of what fighting would have been. And all the while, indirect firepower throwing out kind of interdictory material against the American forces as they retreat, breaking up supply lines, really kind of hitting that CNC kind of material. Free BAR on the field now, so that's bad. And there's one squad getting dropped out, and that was a fully vetted up squad.
They got wiped out.
Less than 75 points. I think Luciano's going to play this one out to the end. And the Americans are down just again to just a bare 10 fuel per minute. So while the Germans just continue to get abused with their infantry, these guys come in, they get pushed back. They come in, they get pushed back. You're retreating. He's going to play a soft retreat right now. The inclusion and the existence, honestly, of these two P4s is just a mountain that the Americans cannot seem to combat at this time. What's more, they don't even have the resources to use soft AT avenues. They have to use things like the Zook and the 57mm, which are, you know, decent but largely immobile, as opposed to being able to be much more aggressive at doing things like these anti-tank rifle grenades at 25 unis per. It's a really, really tough sell. But the overs get blown apart and they're forced on back for a second or two. M4A3 takes a couple of rounds. And I thought I saw... Was that from the ISG? Yes, the ISG puts rounds on downrange. Does some good damage, but just in the end, not going to be too much of a problem. And here come the gun runs from the Stukas, but at the same time, it's just, you know... It's just interdictory stuff. It's not anything really that insane. Fallschirmjägers are on out, though, and with these guys completely pinned, they can just do a dirty amount of damage. They're getting abused like crazy, but 2 quick kills need to back up. There they go. They drop two models, but still a trip cap, and I think that's going to be just about it. Luciano getting savaged in this game. 393 to 31. I think the Germans dropped only about 2 squads that entire game. One of them, I think, was a Sturmpire squad, and the Fallschirmjägers early on. I could not say it for 100% sure. But heck, they could even call them more Fallschirmjägers right here, but a 2 Fallschirmjäger attack. And with that, yes, in just under 30 minutes, in a score of 393 to 22, Harald blows apart Luciano. And the turning point might have been that early death of that steward. But Harald, wow. I have not seen OKW played that well in a very long time. But folks, that's going to be it for me today. Thank you so much for tuning on in. If you have a game you want me to check out, hit me up in the comments below or email me at conallworkgaming@gmail.com. I check it on Tuesdays and Thursdays. If nothing else, if you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button now. I'd love to have you part of the Wolf Clan. And, you know, like this video, share it, tell all your friends about it. I will see you guys all soon, though. This is the end of this particular day's video, and I'll see you guys very, very soon for more Company of Heroes 2 action. You all have a great day. Take it easy.